Let's get spooky.
Yeah, we have a special guest, Tim Turi from Capcom. Come on up here. Capcom on up here. Does that work? No?
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
How's it going, man?
It's so
good to see you, dude.
It's
Thank
good
you
to see
for
you,
coming.
Thanks for coming by.
You made a long trek from several blocks away where Capcom's offices are located.
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm breathless.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's worth it.
It is
Yeah.
worth
It's
it.
worth it.
So this is it's January, the scariest time of the year.
Yes.
Commonly known as.
Yes, of
Spookiest
course.
month.
Resident Evil 7 we are what, days, weeks away from this game?
Yeah, less than 2 weeks now.
Less than 2 weeks. Everything we know so far is that this is a sort of the third time we've seen this franchise not rebooted, but kind of taken in a different direction. It started as a sort of like 3/4 angle top-down survival horror game that had kind of isometric weird camera angles. Then it became sort of this over-the-shoulder, third-person, Leon trying to save the president's daughter situation, which I adore. And now
he did it.
He did it.
He did a good job.
Spoilers if you haven't finished that game.
Oh my gosh.
He does it.
I'm sorry.
And now we've got a first-person sort of survival horror game that I think when people first saw, they said, "Well, we've seen a lot of horror games in the first person, but this is a Resident Evil game, right? Like, no, let's not make any mistakes about this. This is a Resident Evil game."
Yeah, through and through, and like. I understood some of the questions that people had when they first saw it. It was revealed at E3 last year. I can say last year now. It was very spooky, atmospheric. It was kind of establishing like, hey, we want to scare people again.
Right.
But you can still fight back with it being scary. And some of the stuff we've been showing off recently is the things I've been most excited about. Is the fact that you can fight off. There's pistols, there's shotguns, there's flamethrowers. You have. Even more that you can fight back with, but it's not. You mentioned Resident Evil 4. It's not. Every single minute you're going to be gunning something down. Very deliberate, regretting every bullet spent. I feel like.
Right.
Like there's moments where it reminded me of playing the original Resident Evil's game, the original Resident Evil games where. You're about to make a trek into a basement. It's filled with these terrifying monsters. We're calling them the Molded. They're these weird kind of black...
The Molded?
Molded. Yeah, they look like they're made out of mold. They kind of like will materialize out of the walls and
that's
from the
awful.
ground.
I don't like
it's
that
great.
one bit.
No, yeah.
I have horrible
you're gonna hate
allergies.
it.
I don't like it one bit.
Yeah.
You've like it's very weird that like a single descriptor will just immediately disgust me, but that worked. This is like there's something just wet and raw and gross about this game that I can't wait to explore.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't think this house is up to code one bit.
No, definitely
I think there's
not.
some water damage, and that structural support looks a little bit unwieldy.
So we've talked a lot about the sort of connections to the franchise's roots in terms of weaponry, in terms of item conservation, in terms of healing items and stuff like that, right? But there's also, narratively, there's some stuff that you guys haven't really talked about yet.
Right.
But it's there.
Yes.
So we can expect it.
Yeah, so the game takes place, it's the latest installment in the Resident Evil timeline. It takes place after the events of Resident Evil 6. Obviously, compared to 6, which is this huge globe-trotting adventure, 7 is totally zoomed down. You're playing an everyman named Ethan, and you are trapped in the Baker estate. So again, mentioned dilapidated house.
Sure.
Not the Baker family, not the best property owners.
No.
And so
Slumlords.
Yeah. They're not taking very good care of their house. They don't take very good care of you while you're
Full
there.
of bees.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And whatever that is.
That would also be a sort of a hornet's nest that you're looking at there.
So I was going to ask you about that. One of the things that I really love about Resident Evil, obviously, it was about zombies and monsters and stuff like that. But you do get this weird, not necessarily, I guess, campy at times, but there's sort of like just weird ass zombie monsters. Like there was zombie sharks. There were the weird gorillas that live in the basement of Resident Evil 0, which terrify me to this day. Are we going to see like weird animal stuff in this game? Is there going to be some sort of like creature aspect to it?
So the molded that I described there is and now you're seeing like the twisted insects that live in the old house on the Baker's estate. So those are the monsters that we've revealed so far. Like so far, and there are more horrors that await. But the Baker family has been a big focus for us so far because yes, like you've been fighting creatures a lot throughout the entire Resident Evil series, and that continues here. But for one of the first times, I feel like in the series, there's actually like a more firm personification of the enemies that you're fighting the entire time. Like you spend a lot of the time fighting Jack Baker, his wife Marguerite, both of which have very different strategies. Baker's just this very, almost like slasher horror villain type, busting through walls with all sorts of garden supplies, from shovels to other implements, and just trying to. It just keeps on coming. Marguerite, she harnesses the power of insects and bugs,
that's awful.
and it comes after you.
So it seems there is sort of like a Nemesis-style kind of persistent threat where these guys return and this woman returns. And I think that makes more sense than sort of having, like a funny plant trying to kill you or a shark. It seems like all of this is a little more grounded in reality.
It's definitely a different tone, especially from what we've shown so far. But like, I can assure you that there are those there's some quirkiness going on in there. It is definitely of all the Resident Evil games that, especially the mainline games, I feel like this is the most grounded, especially like the RE engine's new engines going for photorealism, which just in the visuals is obviously grounding it, but there is still a little bit of goofiness in there that I love.
Good. I wanted to ask one question. I'm less versed in Resident Evil because I'm a huge baby. Brian played all of them, but I kind of observed friends playing them growing up from underneath blankets,
of course,
covering my eyes and such. And I've been wanting to get in the series, but obviously, like, it's numerous games deep, and there is an existing mythology. Would you say this is a good jumping on point for people who aren't as familiar?
100%. Like, this is of course that's of course I'm going to say that, right? Like, I work at Capcom. But like Brian mentioned with Resident Evil 4, which I think was previously an awesome jumping on point because it was so different from the previous Resident Evils. Resident Evil 7, again, even though it retains those elements that we were talking about from the core, 1 through 0, I guess we would say. It's got inventory management. You're going to safe rooms, collecting ammo, making every shot count, combining items to make health, finding keys, unlocking parts of the mansion. It has those elements, but it's through first person, and that's a very familiar, control language that people have gotten familiar with.
Scarier than third person because you can't see what's behind you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is third person. Especially the fixed camera angles we're talking about, and even 4, it's very zoomed in on Leon. You have your blind spots, but first person, obviously, you can't see what's behind you. You can't see immediately to your side. So it's a different flavor of horror, but it's still terrifying.
Now, speaking of things that you can't see, there are sort of secrets and puzzles and mysteries about this game and this world that the community has just they've completely latched onto. And it's actually nothing, I haven't really seen anything like this since, it feels like the 90s, where like people would get together in the lunchroom and just like discuss theories and maybe lie, make up stuff that's not really in the game.
My friend Tim, who works at Capcom, told me that there's a secret here.
Everyone has a friend named Tim who works at Capcom.
There's it seems like that just from the demos that people have been able to piece together a lot of the story and a lot of other secrets, and they've been able to beat sort of almost sequence break and get through sections faster or differently. Is there tons of that in the main game? Are people going to be like peeling this thing apart for years to come?
Yeah, even through playing it through once, there's elements of the game that you'll want to go through and dig into. Certain events can play out slightly differently, and when it gets into just talking about the story and trying to piece everything together, I feel like you're going to have a lot of that, water cooler or Twitter conversation that goes around. Obviously, the beginning hour demo, which you were talking about, is this bespoke thing. Actually, just for fun, I'll put the.
Oh no, not that awful thing. I don't know if we can show this. It's supposed to be safe for work.
Oh, this is very nice.
It's the dummy finger.
Yeah, it is the dummy finger.
So
it moves, it wiggles.
That's right. It's got an articulation there. So that was a point of like theorizing and everything.
That is really cool.
For the beginning hour demo, but so there's going to be an element of that. There's a lot to figure out with the story, the new threads. I'm excited to see people come together and try to piece things together and really slot it into the franchise.
I like that you've retained that idea of just having weird keys, no matter what game. It's like what architect designed this house? So now Max and I are both huge fans of PSVR. I think I
like to refer to us as owners of expensive hats, but sure, that works.
Fancy mind hats. And this is obviously one of the biggest, probably the biggest game coming to PSVR. I'd say in terms of scope, in terms of length, just production value. This is a very different experience than I think a lot of PSVR fans are used to, because we've gotten sort of like bite-sized demos and weird little indie games and stuff like that, and a couple like a little more robust things like Batman.
Honestly, one of the first things that I saw in PSVR was the kitchen, which was kind of early form of.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. It was even revealed before we confirmed it was part of Resident Evil, that universe. So yeah.
Now, like I'm not going to ask you how much scary it is, because I know it is. I know that there's something about playing this game in VR that just completely changes your perception of the way you handle the world. What percentage of people do you think are going to play through this entire game? Do you think this is something that this feels like almost the ultimate challenge? Like it's like hard mode baked in without having to go into the menu or anything.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the ultimate challenge, and that was one of the first questions I had for the dev team when I found out it was going to be in first person in VR. Is like, did you pull any punches here? Are you worried that VR will make it too scary? And they're like, if you sign up for VR, if you play this in PlayStation VR, like that's on you. Have fun. But to speak to how it changes it, so the entire game, content-wise, from beginning to end, it's the same game. So same conversations you have, like someone who played it on Xbox One versus someone who played it all in PlayStation VR. Whether you played it in VR or not. Same conversation, same content. There's certain things that will be different. Obviously, like you can kind of peek around corners and see if someone's coming without them seeing you. That's a cool little bonus. But
interesting.
But the element of feeling, like that sense of presence of being there, for example, the beginning hour demo that we mentioned, like that was updated and can be fully played in PlayStation VR as well now. And I played through that. I ran through that multiple times. You encounter one of the molded creatures that we mentioned before. I had done that so many times. I think I was just capturing some footage for it or something. I was like, okay, this guy, I got it. And then I played it again after that in PSVR for the first time. And when I entered that room and kind of had headphones on and heard him sort of like slurp down from the ceiling.
It's another very gross slurp.
We'll run with that.
I love that.
SLRPT, I think. Let's go with. And just I hesitated. I felt hesitation where usually I've played so many horror games my entire life that I just feel like I've been so desensitized to some of it and just ready to go and watched a lot of movies and TV shows. And that hesitation that I felt where like, oh man, I don't know what to do because he's right there and that's really intimidating was new to me. Even though I had played through that section, a dozen times or more.
No, I mean that's the magic of VR. I don't know if magic is the right word exactly, but the fact that it does make things seem that much more realistic. And, I don't know if I'm even gonna touch this in VR. I think I might just take my chances with the.
Oh, I'm doing it for sure. I'm going in there for sure.
The nice thing is, Max, especially if you try to tip your toes into the waters of VR, the terrifying waters, you could play like a half hour, an hour with it, and then take it off and play as much as you want without it, and keep going the same playthrough back and forth to your comfort.
Okay. Now, I don't want to get into any spoiler stuff in terms of like end game, but when you finish this game, will you be able to like select sections or chapters or anything like that and return and maybe like show off a part of it that you wanted to show? Like that part's the scariest thing in the world. I want to show my buddy that in VR.
Yeah. So you save your game. You can save your game. It saves automatically, but you also have manual saves throughout the entire game. Kind of like it's like a nod to the typewriter, I feel like, but it's like a cassette recorder. It's in the safe rooms. So
I'm glad you guys updated the tech.
Of course. You got to keep current, right? Obviously. And VHS tapes, of course. But
the Baker family just got Betamax. Very excited.
It's an exciting time. So you can keep on saving your game along, and that's a great idea. And go show off specific parts that you think would be like, oh man, I need to show my friend Terry that in VR. I don't know why Terry, but
now, Tim, when's this game out?
This is coming out January 24th.
So very, very close.
Yeah.
Now, you have the option of buying the game for $59.99 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
That's right.
And it's, I'm not going to bug you about the Switch. We'll talk tomorrow maybe. But there's also a version of this game that comes with this giant, funny finger, but a house.
That's right. So you guys have an awesome unboxing video of the collector's edition of Resident Evil 7. It comes with a replica of the mansion, this dummy finger, which also is a USB.
Oh, good.
And some other cool collectibles in there. Sorry. Sorry about that.
It's very unsettling.
It's weird to see somebody pulling a finger apart, not hearing a fart noise.
But you know what? Like it can be hard to find.
Yeah.
So while supplies last. But check out that unboxing video if you haven't seen it. It's good stuff.
And the VR stuff is going to be available at launch.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Exactly. You buy the game and you have PSVR. You can play the whole game in VR.
Awesome. That's so cool. Resident Evil 7, just a few weeks away. Buy it or buy the house version and crap your pants in your own home because it's going to get scary.